Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Today we are shining the underrated spotlight at a recently remastered title, Ib. Ib is a fantastic short horror game centered around exploring a museum full of artworks. The game recently actually just got a remaster and is still, in my opinion, criminally underrated as one of the best RPG Maker games ever made. I really enjoy RPG Maker horror games and plan to review a lot of classics and new titles on my channel. There is just something about them that makes them so pleasing and intriguing, despite having some of the most brutal and horrific scenes and plot points. So let's plug in our museum guide headphones and tour the legacy of the game that is Ib. Ib was initially released as freeware in the year of 2012 by the creator Corey, debuting during the peak popularity of YouTube's golden horror era, with horror game Let's Play starting to grow significantly on the platform. I remember playing this game when I was in early high school in 2012 when I first heard about it. It was one of those early 2010 free titles that were lesser known and that you even had to navigate to the website to download it. It was never distributed to any major game platforms. Despite being showcased by some of the website's largest creators, Ib is still relatively unknown to this day. When I went to re-download the game, I wasn't even aware of the fact that a brand new remaster of the title had been released on Steam to commemorate its 10-year anniversary since the original release. With the remaster out and more attention ever on Ib, let's walk through on why this remaster is a perfect retelling of the title and a shining example of how to make a quality remake without deviating much from the source material. As soon as you start the game, you are put into the shoes of Ib, a young girl who is visiting the Gertina Art Gallery. As you wander around and explore all of the artworks, the game immediately draws you into its interesting artscapes and visuals, interacting with the portraits when suddenly the lights go out. Immediately, the desolate and isolating atmosphere of the game is set. What was just a bustling and populated museum has been reduced to a hollow shell with no one inside other than you. As you wander around, you will notice that the entry is locked and the only way forward is through a painting called The Abyss. And through we go into an incredible journey that is Ib. The game makes you traverse further into the museum, which has opened up numerous pathways for Ib to explore, hoping to return originally to the entry of the museum and reunite with her family. As you initially start to head through the museum, you'll notice a lot of familiar artworks and designs. All of the paintings and models of the museum are stored across these mysterious back rooms of the museum. Ib immediately pulls you into a deep world of immersion and excels at thematic storytelling without needing continual dialogue in your face or explaining exactly what is happening. It relies on telling the story of the world through very clever subtle imagery and searching the environment around you. But the main beauty of the game, which ties into the main museum theme beautifully, is found through exploring the artworks and how they interact with the newly discovered world Ib explores. There is also a collection log of scanning all of the artworks throughout the museum, offering a nice incentive to 100% the game. To make this collection a little bit more interesting, certain artworks require other characters to collect them, as Ib doesn't actually understand the meaning of the words in the artwork descriptions. This is a great detail and is super fun to aim to collect everything. Ib also has a lot of creative endings that end the game in a variety of ways. I highly recommend checking them all out if you do download this title. As you continue to venture deeper and deeper into the museum depths, you start to realize that you are no longer alone. There aren't other people nearby, but rather the paintings and objects that were once innocently placed in the museum move all by themselves and are creepily following you and outright will at some point kill you. The abandoned museum setting is already horrifying alone, but could you imagine walking through an empty museum and suddenly the lights go off only for you to turn around and being followed by a Campbell's soup can trying to murder you? Where did I put my can opener? I can't deal with this situation. The atmosphere of the first half of this game is truly phenomenal, and unlike many other games that I have played, Ib does a fantastic job at being truly unpredictable on what's coming next. These aren't just typical cheap jump scares either. Ib uses truly spectacular imagery and psychological horror to fully immerse the player in the world, while also making the player be extremely cautious of subtle changes and differences in the room that you explore. What I also really praise about Ib is its short playtime of roughly 90 minutes to 2 hours, which is an extremely short game, but it is filled with so much detail and immersion that it tells more story and lore than a typical AAA title. Ib is such a complex title for its super minimal 2-hour playthrough time that there are a whole bunch of themes that you will uncover as you play through them. There are two main themes that primarily stuck with me throughout my original playthrough and the replay of the remaster that I want to focus on in today's video. The first major theme of the game is psychosis, being unable to differentiate between what is real and what is not. Ib really kicks this scene up a notch by targeting what I think are two specific phobias throughout the storytelling and world. These being automatonophobia, the fear of human figures that aren't human, and scopophobia, the fear of being looked at or watched in public. The combination of these two fears invokes an entirely new experience together. Throughout the game, you'll be constantly on edge questioning if the museum art pieces are real, or if they're moving, or if they are just stationary art items, and if they are potentially following you. As you continue to venture deeper into the story, you will come across two other characters that are also trapped in your same location, Gary and Mary. These characters are great and offer a lot to the problem solving and progression of the story. At many times you may become separated. My favourite quote-unquote puzzle is when you have to pass through an item to each other through the use of paintings. Ib and Mary are stuck in what seems to be a mirrored version above Gary, and need to solve puzzles on each floor to advance. Later on, when you are playing as Gary, you encounter a portrait of a fishing hook, and you later find an umbrella. To proceed in the game, you have to find an umbrella as Gary, and then attach it to the fishing hook portrait, which is then in turn fished up by the man with the umbrella portrait. This is a super clever way to utilize the paintings in the museum and incorporate them into the game so that they are more than just the aesthetics in the room. In fact, you will interact and utilize multiple paintings and artworks throughout your playthrough. Blending these two unique themes together is a truly special psychological horror that invokes a sense of dread that no other games I have played really comes close to. It's very unique. Even with its simple graphics and appearance, this is one of the most intimidating atmospheres I've ever experienced in a horror game. Next major key theme that I took away from the game was the notion of individual perspective. The game has you primarily controlling Ib, but you will eventually also control Gary when the group gets separated. A great example of how perspective is used for a unique storytelling experience in this game is when you control Gary for a period of time while Ib is separated. Earlier, Ib had explored a room which is full of bunnies and calm imagery. The room and their figures didn't seem to be out of the ordinary, but when Gary enters the room later on by himself, the room is full of demented dolls and he has to fight for his life to find a key on the way out. This leads to a multitude of theories on why the perspectives are so drastically different. Perhaps Ib is seeing the world in a much lighter viewpoint and Gary is viewing it as more realistic as he's older and as an adult. Perhaps the reason that Gary wants to help out Ib so much is so that she can keep viewing the world in this child's perspective and not see the horrors of the real world. Ib is fantastic in this regard. It leaves a lot of open questions where you, the player, are able to decide what you think they mean. Regardless on what you believe is true, the perspective changing is such a unique way to showcase how the different characters are currently viewing the world around them. Another puzzle that I really enjoy is a major segment of the game where you have to collect multiple color blobs in order to fill up an artist's palette. And then a room that was previously all monochrome is now shown to be all coloured in, and with a rainbow bridge allowing you to cross a gap. Very cool. Moving on to the music and sounds in Ib are another great way that the game fully immerses the player. The game will often utilise silence and very minimal sounds, such as water dripping, to paint the tense situation of the abandoned rooms and remind you of the isolation that you're experiencing. But as soon as you get comfortable and relax in an area, the use of jarring loud sounds such as deep door knocks and glass breaking when a particular event happens quickly shatters the illusion of a safe area. The music tracks are suspenseful and mysterious, complementing the stage settings a lot and elevating it to another level. Overall, the sound design is really solid and the attention to detail in the remaster really helps it stand out as memorable. The final subject that I want to touch on is the remaster and how it differs from the original title. Remasters, remakes and reboots can all be confusing on exactly what they are trying to achieve. Ib in this case was remade as a remaster, offering graphical upgrades and more content without rewriting the original story. And I have to say, this is exactly the perfect choice for the game. The original Ib still holds up as one of a kind experience, and just adding improved visuals alone would have done the game justice. But no, the remaster went the whole yards and they added in additional content and more fitting sound effects, which really adds a cherry on top of an already excellent title. Ib didn't really need an entire remake as the game still holds up well to this day, so in my opinion, this remaster release is one of the best remasters made due to staying true to its original game source material. Well, now that we've had a tour of the game, let's jump right into leaving a score for this fantastic title. Ib. Ib is a psychological horror masterpiece set in an art museum that tells so much within its short 2-hour runtime. Despite being a short game, Ib poses many complex themes and ideas that it gives most major AAA game titles a run for their money at showing them how to create immersive worlds and levels without being dragged out. The setting of exploring an alternate world inside a museum where all of the artworks and statues are the main enemies is just such a unique and amazing concept that is incredibly engaging to play through. The music is fantastic and sets the eerie atmosphere, and well-timed sound effects shatter the silence when exploring the map. Ib plays with themes of psychosis and alternating perspectives, combining these two things to deliver a one-of-a-kind horror experience that is perfectly brought to life in this remaster. One of the best remasters ever released. The characters in this game are memorable, the setting is stylish, and the whole experience is unforgettable. I rate this game 9 Ibs out of 10. Thank you so much for checking out my review of Ib. It is truly a fantastic experience, and I highly recommend any horror fans to check it out. Even if you don't enjoy horror games, I'm sure it'll have something for you. Let me know in the comments below if you've already played this game or what you thought about it after watching the video. I am planning to spotlight more underrated RPG Maker games on my channel as they are a passion of mine, so if you would like to see more underrated game content, please consider subscribing to the channel. Until the next one, see ya!